The thing that's been amazing to me about the 5 rhythms, particularly in relationship to psychotherapy, is when we practice dancing each of these 5 movement qualities, we are accessing such amazing resources. Physical resources, emotional resources, mental resources, and in a way spiritual resources, ways of being. And I couldn't find a way quite as effective as actually moving and dancing and working with music and working with the reflection and the interaction of other people. I couldn't find a way to access those resources as fully as we do in the 5 rhythms.
My intention has always been to drop people the root down to the feet. So it's really simple for me. Wherever I go, whatever I'm teaching, I am trying to call the spirit back into the body, or trying to call the breath all the way through the body, and trying to get people more rooted in their feet. The reason that we're up here is because we've been trained that everything below the neck is dangerous. You know, any kind of emotion is dangerous. Any kind of sensuality, any kind of sexuality is dangerous. So there's been this deep, ingrained consciousness in Western people to be in control, to keep everything secure, to be predictable. And of course the problem is that life is uncontrollable, obviously, unpredictable, and insecure. So it's like we've been trained to go against the grain of how everything is naturally, organically moving. So we need a perspective that allows us to see that everything is in movement, everything is changing, and we need to have a language that embodies that point of view.
Each rhythm represents a quality of movement or a vibration of movement, but it also represents a certain quality of being, a certain mind state or quality of emotions. And when we put our body in a certain rhythm, our feeling about ourselves and about each other kind of goes along with that rhythm. And then as each rhythm changes, our mind and our sense of ourselves and our sense of others and how we interact with each other change. So it's not just a physical vocabulary. It really is an emotional vocabulary and a particular mind state, and really at its you know, underneath it all is there's states of being. There are 5 states of being that are represented in movement. There's 5 rhythms, and there are 5 points of movement on a vast continuum of movement. I mean, obviously there's more than 5 rhythms in the universe.
Sure.
But we got 5 very clear and crystallized points of energy on a wave of movement. Think of it like a doorway, 5 doorways. Once you go in the doorway, there's many, many possibilities. You spread out, and you can deepen, you may travel to another rhythm in a different way. But I'm going to show you these 5 doorways as we teach them and as we know them and call them.
Okay.
All right? There's flowing, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and still. We see it as a wave of energy, we feel it as a wave of energy that begins in flowing in the way that any day starts, hopefully, in a nice, slow, you know, you're rolling out of bed kind of way, easy, the way maybe a project starts slow. It has this quality of kind of going with the flow, feeling your way, finding your body, finding your breath. You're just kind of moving in there. You're just, but you're continuing. You're finding that receptivity.
I'm the queen of flow. I don't know, it feels like breathing to me. I don't have any like, why is it, or it's just that continuous, big, fat circle of moves. It's just me. It's just what I embody, and I love it. And I can sink so nice and deep into this center of my being, into these hips, and work them and feel my feet, and I don't know, it's just luxurious. It's just a luxurious, gorgeous feeling.
We start in the gathering of energy, receptivity, into a more organized, beat-oriented, driven sense of, you know, It's my favorite rhythm. It's actually my favorite rhythm. I live here a lot. I think a lot of our culture does. But we, instead of the culture that we know, the staccato, tough, rigid, staccato, we work with the healthy balance of beat, pacing, yourself. You're just getting things together. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and this, and that. I'm going to move this part, I'm going to move that part. And then you're building your potency, you're breathing, you're finding your pace, your day, You can be working until 6 o'clock. So, in the dance, we just practice on how do we breathe and how do we pace ourselves when you got stuff to do. You got to think, you have to set boundaries, you have to say yes, you have to say no, you have to pick up the kids, you have to, there's things that we do in this world. And so how can we do them in a relaxed way, organized way, clear way, breath, and have some, that's what we're teaching, that's what staccato teaches us. So, after a while of doing that, just again, like in the process of energy, when energy builds and you're point by point by point by point, most often it builds and it builds and it builds and it does get a little faster, and at any point it gets bigger than the container and your day gets pretty full, and quite often, if I think for moms, because I'm a mom and I know how that is you get to dinner time. You got the kids and you get all you get to dinner time and you think, okay, it's dinner time and the kids are there and maybe my husband's coming home and I have stuff to do, and things start to move into chaos, and have I done everything, have I thought for tomorrow, and that organized pace just kind of falls apart into chaos. And now mostly we resist chaos in our world because it's stressful, it's painful, it's out of control. We try to get back down to that staccato. But in this practice we teach of, as a wave comes, as a wave of energy is coming through your life, through your body, through your day, when it gets to that chaotic point where things are falling apart and it just has a life of its own, you can't control it, that's what we're practicing on the dance floor. Sure. It would be something about how I can let my body just relax. How can I relax that way and enjoy it? Instead of fight it. Be safe, eyes open, and not tweak my neck or hurt my back. How can I kind of go with the chaos so that I learn to make friends with that basic energy in our world?
Well, I love chaos. It was my hardest rhythm at first, and it's also been my biggest teacher, and it's where I really feel like I can let go. I take in and I take in and I take in, and then I put out, and so it's that releasing part of it just feels good to me.
Chaos naturally moves into lyrical. If we ride it with any sense of grace at all, and we're not fighting it, chaos from that kind of crazy place, well, dinner ends. You got the dinner on the table, you answer the phones, and there's a point, like at the end of the day where you just say, you sit on the couch or something. That's how it is for me, and I sit on the couch and I think, whew, there's just a sense of light. There's that sense of, I've moved through something. And in the dance, when we work with it, we call this rhythm lyrical. After chaos, when energy builds and builds and it releases itself, we just kind of move into that sense of expanding beyond our boundaries, effortless, just easy and light. And sometimes it's very repetitive. You might just fall into an easy, gentle rhythm. Sometimes it's maybe just feeling some effortless way of moving as the wave of energy, which is just built and released, and now it's coming down the other side. There's a tenderness when things are done, or when the energy is released. There's a tenderness, there's a sweetness that is natural, and then it's coming down to a still point, where energy gets to rest and pool within our body. Again, it's organic to us, and we don't have to make stillness happen. We don't have to make it stop, but there is going to be a point where we run out of energy, and there's a still point of just a resting, a sense of internal integration. And in the dance, we focus sometimes with stillness moving very slow, in slow motion. Other times just maybe moving and feeling a shape, and just so that our bodies get used to, and psychologically and mentally and every other way, we get used to allowing, the period at the end of the sentence.
it's taken me years, you know, my entire lifetime to find ways to seduce people back into themselves, to find ways to seduce people back into their feet, to make it a safe journey, even though it's very dangerous. And to get there, to get to your own 2 feet, you have to go through a lot of wilderness.